Hey, how you doing, my friend? What I'd like to do in this video is teach you a very important concept called chord embellishment. Sometimes it's called direct substitution. And this is actually something that very few guitarists know. But it's extremely powerful because what it can do is open up a world of possibilities for you in your different chords. So any kind of songs that you know right now, if you learn direct substitution, then what you can do is go back and kind of spice up those old songs that you know using a new set of chords. Or if you are writing your own music or you'd like to learn how to write your own music, this is a great way to experiment with new chords and progressions, because what it allows you to do, instead of just playing like a regular old C chord, if you know how direct substitution works, you could use, let's say, a C major 7, or you could use a C add 9 chord. So the whole idea is that what it does is, once you understand these fundamentals, is it just opens up a lot more possibilities for you with your chords that you know how to play, because all you're going to do is keep the root note the same. You're just going to swap out a few notes and you're going to get a new sound, which is pretty cool. So what I'd like to do is teach you the core fundamentals of how this works, just using the caged chords, our open cowboy chords, I like to call them. Okay, so what I'm going to do is show you. Let's start with actually the A chord here. So we got an open position A, and what I'd like to do is just play these for you, because I'm going to give you the tab, so I'm not going to give you like fretboard close-ups. We're going to cover a lot of ground quickly here, so I'm going to give you the tab so you can easily follow along. But I want to show you, let's start out with this A chord, all right? So a chord that you can easily substitute would be an A sus2. Okay, you could also easily substitute an A sus4. Okay, now those are probably the two most widely used. So like if you had a simple chord progression, let's just say like, so instead of just playing A, if I wanted to use direct substitution, I could swap it out for the A sus2 like this. Okay, and I'm just going from A sus2 to C. Now, if I understand how direct substitution works, what I can do is, instead of just using that regular old C chord, I could use a C major 7. So then my chord progression would sound like this. Okay, so that's just one simple idea of how you can use that. Okay, so let's look at the C chord. What other chords can we substitute for a regular old C? Well, we've got C like this, right? Well, I just showed you that C major 7. Okay, so that chord, I've got C and then C major 7. C major 7, all I got to do is make my C chord and then lift up my index finger. And then I've got a C major 7. I could also substitute and use a C6. Pretty cool chord. A C sus4 would be like this. And that chord always wants to resolve back to a regular old C chord. So I've got like C sus4. And then down to the C. Isn't that a nice sound? Very subtle sound. Okay, and then I could always use a C add 9. Here's that 9th. So if I had a chord progression, let's say like that's just a simple C to a G. Well, now I can just use, like, say, a C add 9 and switch over to that G. See how that changes up the sound? Okay, let's take a look at the old G chord. What chords could I substitute for this? Well, there aren't a whole lot of them that make a lot of sense, but you could use like a G sus4, which is essentially, okay, and I've given you this chord in your tab. Not a real practical chord, but you could certainly use it. And that's kind of the one that I would stick with, is that G chord. And it goes nicely over to your G. So G sus4 to G. Okay, let's take a look at the E chord. The chords I like to substitute for this one are an E sus4. That's a nice sound. And sometimes you can do an E add 9. This thing is kind of hard to fret, but it has a really super cool sound. So those are pretty cool. And then of course you have your D chord. You can easily substitute a D sus2, which means you take your D and you just lift this up. Okay, so you got D chord, then you just lift this middle finger up. And then you could do a D sus4 where you keep your D chord and then you just bring this pinky finger down to the 3rd fret 1st string, which always wants to resolve down to the D. Okay, so if you had like a, let's say you had a chord progression that was going, let's say, G to D. Well, now you could go like G, D, and I'll play a D sus4. Right? So those are just some examples of how you can use direct substitution. And of course, in this video, we've just begun to scratch the surface on all this. But in DVDs, I think it's 17 and 18 of Ripfire Guitar, I'm going to talk a lot more about direct substitution, and we're even going to get into some standard chord substitution, which is a little more complex, but it really opens up a world of possibilities for you. So I hope that helps. If you enjoyed this video, click the like button below and let me know your thoughts by posting your comment. Thanks so much, my friend, and we'll talk soon.